Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, and we will cover verses 113 to 123. The Quran is the only guidance. And these are the references. The excerpts which are taken in this presentation are from volume 3 of the meanings of the Quran. This is our contact. The first slide, that is the verse 113, those who oppose al-haq, their psyche. So Quran has gone through the psyche of those people who oppose al-haq. وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودُ لَيْسَتِ النَّصَارَى عَلَى شَيْءٍ وَقَالَتِ النَّصَارَى لَيْسَتِ الْيَهُودُ عَلَى شَيْءٍ وَهُمْ يَتْلُونَ الْكِتَابَ كَذَلِكَ قَالَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ مِثْلَ قَوْلِهِمْ فَاللَّهُ يَحْكُمُ بَيْنَهُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فِيمَا كَانُوا فِيهِ يَخْتَلِفُونَ. The condition of those who oppose haqq is also strange. No matter how severe their mutual differences may be, they all create a united front in opposition to the Deen of Allah. This is the same condition of these Jews and Christians. They all become one unit in their opposition to you, but the state of their mutual differences is such that the Jews say about the Christians that their religion is of no consequence. The Christians say about the Jews that they are not following the truth. And the best part is the both proclaim that they follow that book whose source is one, i.e. Old and New Testament. This is the same condition of those, that is the pagans of Arabia, who have no knowledge of the book. They also declare that their beliefs are based on haqq and oppose the others. And this is a fact of life. We see it around us in the world, that whatever beliefs people hold, they are quite firm on that, and they think these are the only beliefs and their beliefs are the truth. They also declare that their beliefs are based on haqq and oppose the others. This is the natural consequence of forming parties. These differences of theirs, which is a punishment of Allah, cannot be removed until the time that in accordance with the Quran, the great revolution does not take place within human society. And we see this kind of display under sectarian Islam, that people have different beliefs and still they try to come together, and they simply cannot come together because they have differences. And we can see this being displayed in the Middle East in the war between Iran and the US. At that time, the concept of universal humanity and unity of authority and law will gain ascendancy, and in this way, differences will be eliminated. Or then after death, anyone will come to know whether he was on the path of haqq or batil. And of course, after death, that will be too late. Next slide is differences among mankind can only be removed through acceptance of the Quranic guidance. In terms of principles and fundamentals, Deen has always continued to be one. And Quran says, O addressees of the Quran, the same path of ad-Deen is also proposed for you, the command for which was given to the messenger Nuh, Ibrahim, Musa, and Isa, and in fact all the Anbiya, and the command for which is now being given to you, O Rasool, and to all of us. Since the fountainhead of ad-Deen was only one, i.e. the Wahy of Allah, that is why the question of discord and division in it simply did not arise. It is on this basis that it was proclaimed to all of the Anbiya that they establish this Deen, that is the divine system, and do not create any kind of parties in it. An aqimul deena wala tatafarraqu fihi, that in the establishment of Deen, do not make parties, do not divide yourself. So this is important to understand, that if we have one ideology of life, then we simply cannot be divided among ourselves. But what kept on happening was that as long as the messenger remained alive, he directed his followers in accordance with the Wahy of Allah, that is the book of Allah, and in this way used to keep them fixed on one center. The practical shape of ad-Deen is the formation of one ummah according to the oneness of the code of laws. But after his departure from the world, adulterations would commence in that Wahy of Allah. This was the state of affairs with the wahi of every messenger. We go to the next slide, the meaning of Qiyamah, and this word has appeared in this verse. The word Qiyamah is from Qiyamun, which means to stand up. Qiyamatun, which means to stand up all of a sudden, is derived from the addition of ta to this word Qiyamun. This has been discussed in a whole chapter, the life in the hereafter, what does the Quran say? And we can see this Qiyamah, that in 1 week the whole situation in the Middle East and in the world has changed. The quotation of a few relevant excerpts will suffice in relation to the subject under discussion. It is stated in this that the possibility for man to stand up is both this world and the life after death. In this world, tyrannical powers keep the weak and feeble suppressed in such a way that, never mind having the strength to stand up, even the thought of this does not cross their minds. But circumstances keep changing gradually till such a time when a momentous revolution arrives and this same suppressed humanity all of a sudden rises and stands up. And we can witness this in the case of Iran and those who are opposing the Western hegemony. This is called the Qiyamah in this world. If this revolution takes place through the hands of that Jamaat, which is the holder of the divine permanent values, then in place of injustice and suppression in society, there will be an era of justice and harmony. Everyone will obtain the full recompense for his labor, and no one will be able to usurp it. Every matter will be decided according to the divine law. Haq will overwhelm Batil. Next slide is some historical perspective to this verse. At the time of the Risalat of Rasulullah, that is the time when he became the messenger, the divine Deen had not remained in its original and true form anywhere in the world. Everywhere it had become transformed into religion. The consequence of which was that it was the claim of every religionist that they possessed the divine teaching in the original form. The situation in the present world is not very dissimilar. All religionists, that is including the sectarian Islam, they are not following the book of Allah. But the teaching of one did not match with the other. Mutual differences existing among them. Mutual differences, as the Quran has said, will always exist between people who do not have the same ideology about their life. But since they did not have any such criterion which could remove these differences by distinguishing between Haq and Batil, hence mutual fighting and conflicts continued among them. And these are still continuing in 2026. The Quran announced that a criterion will appear before us from this revolution, from which this truth will become evident as to which teaching is in reality that which is given by Allah, and which one is that created by human beings themselves. And this is an interesting part of our learning, that when we look at the Quran and we look at the state of the world, we can see the picture very clearly, transparently, absolutely without any doubt or suspicion about the correctness and the truth of the Quran. Because the situation is right in front of us, and the psyche which is controlling the world at this moment in time and is fighting among each other is very well depicted in the Quran. In this way, their mutual differences will be removed. Therefore, when the followers, that is Jews, Christians, Zoroastrians, and sectarian Muslims, we can include in this one as well, of different religions in the world accepted Islam, their differences became eliminated. Wherever it has appeared in the Quran that their differences will be eliminated in Yawm al-Qiyamah, the day of judgment, this is exactly what is meant from this. And we know in Arabic, Yawm means not only one day, it also means a period of time and era, which could be spread over many hundreds of years. Next slide is what is meant by hukum. And again, this word is also appeared in this verse. The meaning of hukum is to make a decision. Obviously, decisions in matters of differences and contentions cannot be done through preaching and counsels. This is the reason why in religion, decisions about contentious matters have never been resolved through debate or argument, nor can be. and we can witness it in today's world. Hukam needs power behind it. And that is why Quran says if you follow the formula of the Quran, then power will come in your direction. In fact, power is already waiting somewhere in the future. It is our efforts which matter. The decision can only be given by that authority which is the holder of power. This will be called istikhlaf fil ard, or the system of the state. That system in which the decisions about all matters should be according to the divine law. For example, in Surah Al-Baqarah, where the arrival of Anbiya is mentioned, it is stated there that Allah also sent down the code of laws, and it is called Al-Kitab, that is the Quran, with these Anbiya, so that they decide according to this in those matters where people differ. Because we need an external standard. And we can see under the quality control, for example, in the manufacturing of cars, there is an external standard laid down that parts will have this kind of dimensions and this kind of quality and this kind of operation. Rasulullah himself was told that, O Rasool, decide according to the book of Allah in those matters where people differ. So this is the kind of conviction we have to acquire in case we wish to work towards the system of Deen. Continuing to the next slide. Continuing with Hukam. No other code of laws can be included together with this book. That is, Allah does not include anyone else in His sovereignty, and this is called shirk. Because the formula becomes disturbed, it becomes contaminated. So no tampering in the laws of Allah is allowed, because we will not get those benefits which are associated with the pure obedience of these laws. Rasulullah himself used to obey this very book, nothing else. Contravention of this is disobedience to Allah and becomes deserving of punishment. And punishment means that the consequences of not following the book of Allah appear right in front of us, and we can see in the world of 2026, which has become hell due to this contravention. The issue is that whether we know fire will burn or not, if we put our finger in fire, it is going to burn. Every difference will be eliminated according to this book. For decisions in those matters in which you differ, approach Allah, that is His book. This is the actual line of demarcation between kufr and iman. So the state of the world of today is state of kufr. Those people who do not make decisions according to this divine book are the ones who are called kafir. Kafir means to not make use of or cover up the guidance of the book of Allah and to suffer the consequences of this disobedience as a result. Next verse, 114, Deen needs centers for education, training, and self-development, etc. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ مَنَعَ مَسَاجِدَ اللَّهِ أَنْ يُذْكَرَ فِيهَا اسْمُهُ وَسَعَىٰ فِي خَرَابِهَا أُولَٰئِكَ مَا كَانَ لَهُمْ أَنْ يَدْخُلُوهَا إِلَّا خَائِفِينَ لَهُمْ فِي الدُّنْيَا خِزْيٌ وَلَهُمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. The foundation of this revolutionary system of the Quran is being laid through the hands of Momin, and it is being initiated from that place where the teaching is only provided about bowing in front of the law of Allah, that is the obedience. These very places, which are called Masajid, are the centers of this system. The dwelling in these centers will be through the hands of this Jamaat, not through the hands of those who include man-made laws together with the law of Allah, or those who become the cause for creating division in the Jamaat. Now reflect that who can be a greater rebel and enemy of humanity than those who strive for the destruction of this system and erect all kinds of obstacles so that the pure law of Allah is not propagated in these centers of Deen. They should have come to these centers not holding rebellious sentiments in their hearts, but instead being fearful of the devastating outcomes of their destructive deeds. Nevertheless, the outcome of their existing path will be that they will suffer humiliation and disgrace in this worldly life and ruin and annihilation in the life of the hereafter. There is a lot to reflect in this verse in our own time. Next is the meaning of masjid. Very briefly, we'll go over it. In the previous verse, it was said that Allah will establish His signs, and its meaning was that such a system will become established in which the commands of Allah will be established in the stature of the laws of the state. The correct meaning of Masajid and dhikr will be comprehended in the light of this interpretation. According to the Lugat, the meaning of masjid is the place for prostration or sajda, or to do prostration. The meaning of sajda has been explained in volume 2 under verse 234. We have gone over it previously. This means to completely obey the divine commands and laws, to adopt the rule of Allah. So masajid are the place where the decision is taken about how to obey the laws of Allah, and then those are implemented. These are sort of local centers or headquarters in which all decisions are made by the Jamaat-e-Momineen by coming together. This is the meaning of ibadat as well, whose exposition has been covered in volume 1 under verse 1-4. It's the meaning of Masajid, and Masajid is the plural of masjid, and masjid is translated as mosque, are the centers for obedience to Allah. Those places in which these matters will be decided, that what will be the ways and methods of obedience to the divine laws and their implementation. This is why it is stated that keep all your attentions focused on the laws of Allah. In every matter, approach them, bow your head before them, and keep obedience dedicated to them. Do not associate anyone else in them. Explaining this, it is stated in another place, obedience and submission can only be to the divine commands, not to anyone else. Hence, do not include obedience to anyone else in this. And we can look at the state of Masajid across the Muslim world. Now we go to the next term, the meaning of zikr or dhikr. From these explanations, this reality has become clear what it means by Masajid of Allah in the verse under review. These denote the centers of the divine system, the chambers of the Muslim Ummah. And we should remember it, they have a role after the Deen is established. Before Deen, it is all religion. After this, let us look at the word dhikr. The basic meaning of dhikr are to keep something constantly in mind, to not let it disappear from view. It does not mean to keep repeating some words in our own time. To declare it to be the aim of life, to bring it repeatedly before your eyes for this reason, that it should not somehow be forgotten, and to refresh its remembrance. All this is included in the interpretation of dhikr. All these presentations and efforts we are making on this platform will fall under this term. The purpose of the divine system is to practically implement the divine commands and laws, principles and values within society. The Quran is the code of these laws and values. This is the constitution of this system, that is the Islamic State. Hence, it is essential that this divine code remains before our eyes all the time. From this respect, the Quran has been called Al-Dhikr, dhikr from your Rabb. Send down dhikr on you. So we can look at some of these verses. In fact, there are a lot of verses which mention dhikr right from beginning to the end. Surely we have sent down dhikr on you, and other places. In other words, the aim of this system is the Quran. That is, if we go through this verse 21:10, we can see that it is the dhikr of human beings, that is all of us. That is, if we follow the Quran, we will achieve that eminence and loftiness which is mentioned in the book of Allah. Since the Quran is the aim of life for the whole of mankind, this is why it is called Dhikrul lil Alameen. We go to the next verse, 115. Come to terms with the concept of Allah as noted in the Quran, and this concept is beyond the limits of time and space. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَشْرِقُ وَالْمَغْرِبُ فَأَيْنَمَا تُوَلُّوا فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَاسِعٌ عَلِيمٌ. They should understand that if these people will not permit this system at this time to become established in this location, that is Mecca, which we have called the first house for humanity, no harm will be caused to this system. So this system of Allah, what Quran is saying, does not need any location at its initial stages, because it is primarily ideological and to get education and training, which we are doing on this platform. So that point we should keep in mind, but ultimately it will need some geographical location to establish it. This system is not connected to any particular location. This system is of that Allah who is beyond the relationships of form and direction and time and space. He is encompassing all the entireties of the universe. And this is a beautiful part of this verse. He is encompassing all the entireties of the universe. Hence, O Jamaat-e Momineen, wherever you will be paying attention in his direction, the path leading towards him will be in front of you. And this is the beautiful part of obeying the Quran. The system of Allah is the possessor of great expanses and totally predicated on knowledge and vision. Next slide is, to understand the ideology of Deen, we need to understand the concept of Allah. We have gone through these aspects before as well. In the initial stages of progressing towards accepting Iman, the Quran invites us to come to grips with the concept of Allah at a fundamental level. Here in this verse, we are informed that we should step out of the physical domain of life and arrive at the knowledge that Allah is everywhere and not look for a physical place or direction in order to conceptualize Him. So Quran is asking us to grow out of our biological self or biological existence and come to the psyche level and understand the Quran and change our psyche and convert it through Iman into the psyche of a Momin. Allah is free from the restrictions of direction and form and is beyond the limits of space and time. He is covering all the expanses of the universe. Whichever direction you may face, the glories of Allah will be before you. That is why Momineen think on a global level, on mankind level, rather than confining themselves to some geographical place or confining themselves to biological relationships. Leaving aside, turning your direction to some particular side, wherever you are, Allah is with you. So much so that He is closer to man than even his jugular vein. Then on the issue of self-development, Quran has made it clear, لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تَوَلُّوا وَجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. We should go through the whole of the verse in our own time. Bir, which means the expanse of our consciousness. That Momin expanse, the Momin understanding of the system of Deen is not that you face east and west. Bir is to have Iman in Allah hereafter, and then the rest of the aspects are covered. Come to terms with the concept of Iman of the Quran as noted, for example, in verse 256, وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ. That is, first you reject the man-made system and then accept Iman in Allah. And then see how the expanse of your vision starts to expand. And this is what it means towards the end of this verse is, Inna Allaha wasi'un alim. So Quran is asking us to become wasi'un alim within the finite limits of being human, as Allah, who is our model, is also wasi'un alim. Next verse, 116, precision required in the concept of Allah. وَقَالُوا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ وَلَدًا سُبْحَانَهُ بَل لَّهُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ كُلٌّ لَّهُ قَانِتُونَ. Leaving aside these Jews, ask these Christians that how do you become the claimants of Iman when your concept about Allah is so demeaning that you state that Allah also has a son. In this way, you have brought Allah to the level of human beings. He is far above this and far beyond this concept. Because if we believe in something which is a lie, and even if we genuinely believe that this is a truth, that means our subconsciousness will be affected, our own belief system will be affected, and it will prevent us from understanding the Quranic concepts. Whatever is in the highs and lows of the universe, it is all brought into existence for the completion of His established program, and all are obedient to His laws. Hence, He cannot be dependent on sons like that of human beings. At the level of the human self, there is no procreation. Procreation is very much a biological phenomenon associated with the physical body of man. Death is for the physical body, not for the human self. And this aspect is very important for us on this platform to understand that our self cannot procreate. Whatever qualifications we have acquired, we cannot pass it on to the newly born children. It is simply not possible. At self level, its unity is absolute. Next verse is 117. Come to terms with this fact that Allah creates from nothing and His further creation proceeds through the process of yakulu lahu kun fayakun. That is, when He decides to create something, He just says be and it starts happening. Badi'u samawati wal arde wa iza qaza amran fa innama yakulu lahu kun fayakun. Hence, your finite mind can only tell you that the procedure of creation from Allah is also that of procreation, i.e., that process through which a son is born to a father, whereas Allah is He who brought into existence the whole of the universe for the first time. His pattern of creation is that when He decides on the creation of something, then the creation of that thing commences at the very same time. Allah possessing such powers, why does He need a son? And this is a very important statement to put down over here. Allah possessing such powers, why does He need a son? And if we also understand this concept, we will rise to a non-biological level, that is the human self's level, and its development will then proceed further at a more or less exponential scale. Next slide is the procedure of Allah's infinite creative power highlighted. Allah is He who brought the whole universe into existence from nothing, without any materials. The pattern of His creation is this, that when He forms the intention to creating anything in the universe, then together with this, the process of His creation commences. And then it gradually reaches to its completion through a process, and Quran has pointed to this fact, Huwallahul Khaliqul Bariul Musawwirul. That is from the creation side, that is the Khaliq side, then Bari, that is the trimming and adjustments take place in the creation, and then it comes into a final shape of Musawwir. In the verses under view, that is these two verses, 116, 117, the Quran has confined itself to refutation in principle of the Batil belief of the Christians. The purpose is to highlight that the nation which is so immersed in superstitions, how can it easily comprehend the lofty concept of the system of Deen? Hence, opposition to the Quran from their direction is understandable because they are holding on to false beliefs. And this is the state of all religions. Once they hold on to the false beliefs, it doesn't matter if they think that these are true beliefs. The fact is, using the Quranic criteria, we know that those beliefs are false. And by holding those beliefs, they can never ever come to the Quranic message. They have to first question those beliefs, get rid of those beliefs gradually, and then come to the Quran. This verse points to the existence of the human self and its need to grow out of basic biological proclivities and acquire new life, a completely transformed psyche using the Quranic guidance. One thing is clear, that Allah is invisible and is capable of creating this universe and many more, and this includes us humans with free will and minds which can think rationally. An important aspect emerges here, that if we give an abode to Batil beliefs in our minds, then how much harm we cause to ourselves by not achieving its development. It is simply not possible for such a self to develop which is holding on to false beliefs. Next verse is 118. Sufficient signs around us to help us think rationally. وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ لَوْلَا يُكَلِّمُنَا اللَّهُ أَوْ تَأْتِينَا آيَاتٌ كَذَلِكَ قَالَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ مِثْلَ قَوْلِهِمْ تَشَابَهَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ قَدْ بَيَّنَّا الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. I've highlighted some of these points, لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, that because they do not have knowledge, they do not question everything. That is why they ask these kind of questions. Some among these people say that, why does Allah, if He wishes to have us guided, not talk to us directly, or why does He not produce some tangible sign before us, by recognizing which we can acknowledge that this really is wahi from Allah. So they are not happy with all the signs around them and all the cognitive processes taking place within their own head, and they want something more than that because they are not thinking rationally. These speeches of theirs are based on ignorance about the nature of Wahi, and this is not something being uttered for the first time. People before them, possessing similar mentality, used to say the same. So it is not something new. Even today, we can see people put forward these kind of questions. And in the religious domain, a lot of people think that there should be some miracles taking place around them. And in fact, they start believing in some of these tricks which these so-called scholars put forward. Who can tell them how many of our signs are in front of them? But these signs can only become tangible to those who, by applying knowledge and vision, are agreeing to accept the reality. If these people had employed intellect and reasoning, then this reality would have been comprehended that for a creation possessing choice and intent, that is human beings, the technique for guidance is that Allah makes his guidance reach mankind via one person, that is the messenger. And then he leaves it to human beings whether to accept this guidance if they wish. And if they wish, they can reject it. And this is an important point which I've highlighted, which means individuality is extremely important to acquire this knowledge. And one should not wait for somebody else to come and tell us, if we have the book, we have the material, then we should carry out our own education and training and offer our services to the system of Deen. Next slide is some aspects of Wahi of Allah. Here, two demands presented by them are referred to, that Wahi should come to them directly, whereas the Quran is already with them and they still want it to come to them directly somehow into their head, and then they will accept it. But if they look at this Wahi, which they are reading and being communicated through the messenger, then they are not paying attention to it because they are not thinking rationally that this messenger should display some extraordinary event that is a miracle. Let us take the first point. This has been noted in detail about Wahi in the first two volumes. In summary, that guidance has automatically been placed in everything in the external universe and in every individual of every species among living things, according to which it has to spend its life. These things or species and individuals are constrained to spend their life according to this guidance. This is termed animal instincts, and we know how animals behave. So all of them have these instincts. The need for Wahi for the guidance of mankind, it is covered in volume 1 under verse 1 and also in volume 2 under verse 37. This Wahi used to be sent on some selected being, and he used to be instructed to communicate it to other human beings as well. Because human beings are not just animals, they are more than an animal because we have choice and intent and we have developed cognitive abilities. Whereas our body follows these instincts. For example, when we feel thirsty, we go and drink water. But then it is our choice that what kind of water we want to drink. And same goes for the food. This knowledge was gained directly from Allah, and there was no addition in it from this being from his own intellect or effort. The messenger never felt a need to add or subtract from this Wahi, became convinced of its completeness. And Quran says that messenger himself accepts Iman first, because then he knows what kind of a change has taken place within himself, and then he can discuss it with others who have also accepted Iman. We go to the next slide, continuing with the need for Wahi. No one other than a Nabi can know about the nature of this Wahi and how did the Nabi receive it. And this is not an issue. We have gone through it previously as well. The issue is that the book of Allah is with us, and instead of wasting our time and energies thinking that how did it come to the messenger, we should look at the book of Allah and go through it and then decide whether it is for us or not. The Wahi sent to the Nabi used to be contained in his book. No Wahi existed outside of it, that is external to the Quran. And if we go through the Quran, we have gone through these aspects previously as well. The Quran itself proves to us that it is a complete book. Aside from Wahi, there was no other way to obtain knowledge directly from Allah. Wajdan is the outcome of human effort, similarly in the case of Kashf and Ilham too. These terms are past of mysticism and past of religious thinking. These terminologies are also concocted by human beings themselves because they don't like the Quran and they want to follow their own desires. There is no mention of these in the Quran. These are arts and crafts which have no connection with Deen. And these things prevail in other religions as well. A detailed discussion about these have been covered in Volume 1 and Volume 2. And these are also covered in Human Self and Iblis. Wahi ended with the eminent self of Rasulullah. Now no human being can obtain knowledge directly from the direction of Allah, whatever name may be given to it. The Quran is complete and preserved for all times, hence no more messenger, that is no more Nabis coming of Allah is going to come, as there is no need for him. So the responsibility is on those who become Momin. Next is some elaboration on the issues of miracles, because that was the second point in the verse. Some emotions, desires, concepts, and beliefs of the human race continue to be handed down successively through generations from the initial human era. The proclivity for miracles is also included among these. Human consciousness in the initial era was semi-conscious or semi-mature. Hence, the law of cause and effect of nature was beyond its comprehension. Even today, a lot of people do not understand the law of cause and effect. They say unintended consequences, but they think that it is at random and it is by chance. It was due to this that it viewed every manifestation of nature and every event in the universe as a miracle or wonder. Their religious leaders used to take advantage of this weakness and keep them confused in all kinds of frauds and tricks, because it becomes money-making practice. The belief born out of this was that the evidence for the truth of the claim to spirituality is that its claimant should display some conjuring trick. Though human consciousness has advanced significantly, this desire of man is continuing unconsciously through the generations. This is why the Quran has stated that this demand of these people is nothing new. This has been going on since the beginning. In verse 118, when it is stated that those before them possessing a similar mentality used to do this, this refers to this same reality. Because children pick it up from their parents, and that this whole process continues down the line. That this sentiment or strong desire among mankind continues to on unconsciously from generation to generation. In another words, it is stated, is this the legacy they have transmitted? And we can look at this, the rest of the verse as well. We go to the next verse, 119, acquiring the exact psyche of a warner and a bringer of glad tidings to the wider community in the world. Inna arsalnaka bil haqqi bashiran wa naziran wala tusalu an ashabil jahim. This is that principle according to which, O Rasool, we have sent you with haqq for guidance towards mankind, so that you tell the people how prosperous will be the outcome of living life according to the wahi of Allah, and how destruction and annihilation will descend by disobeying it. And we can see this destruction and annihilation taking place on the planet Earth in various parts. Let the message reach them and then leave them in their own condition, so that whoever wishes may reject it. Whoever will reject it, he will become destroyed, and the responsibility for his destruction will not be on you. Your duty is to communicate this message to people. And we should keep in mind from the events which are taking place right in front of us in today's world, that all of these people, because they are not on the Quran and they do not have a developed self, they don't have hereafter as well. So this destruction and annihilation is not only in physical terms and pain and grief caused over here. This is going to continue beyond our death. Next is verse 120. The guidance of Allah is the only guidance. وَلَنْ تَرْضَ عَنْكَ الْيَهُودُ وَلَا نَصَارَى حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتَهُمْ قُلْ إِنَّ هُدَى اللَّهِ هُوَ الْهُدَى वला इन तबाता अहवाहुम बादल्लज़ी जाका मिनल इल्म मालका मिनल्लाहि मिन वलिय्यिम वला नसीर. I've highlighted two parts of it, particularly this part is we should keep in mind. In fact, we should remember this verse in case we wish to discuss with somebody else. The reality is that these Jews and Christians are not indulging in this kind of conversation because they are perusing haqq. They have already decided that they will never ever adopt the path on which you are treading because they hate the book of Allah. Hence, they can never agree with you under any circumstances until, ERasool, by abandoning your path, you adopt their maslak. And this is the bone of contention between the sectarian Muslims and the Quran. Say to them that the question is not of my path or your path. Only that path can be the correct one towards which the wahi of Allah guides. And that wahi in its original shape is not present with you, it is in the Quran. Now it is evident that under these circumstances, when the wahi of Allah has come to you, supposing that, O Rasool, you start to follow the base thoughts and desires of these people, then you will also become like them. And you will have no protector and helper to save you from the destruction which will descend by treading on this non-divine path. So whole concept of intercession and safarish goes out of the window. It is all about every one of us that how do we follow the Quran through Iman and Salih deeds. We go to the next slide. There is no guidance in the world except the Quran. Inna hudallahi huwal huda. The guidance of Allah, that is the only guidance. These things take time and to understand and come to terms, but these have to be related to the events taking around us. And so it is important that we should have as much information about the man-made systems as possible. And it has become easier in today's world through social media and through newspapers and other channels. This is the criterion to judge between haqq and batil and right and wrong. Ideologically, this can also be answered like this, that every religion claims that they are the ones who possess that teaching. Then how can it be resolved whose claim is correct in this regard and whose is wrong? The Quran has responded to this and has given an answer based on concrete evidence according to its unique style. It has stated that undoubtedly Deen was only one, which was given in the books sent down to different Anbiya, that is to different messengers. If those books had remained with the followers of those Anbiya, then the claim of each one among them that they possess the truth would undoubtedly have been true. And since that truth was only one, hence there would have been no division among them, nor mutual war and confrontation. This is a very important point for us to grasp when we discuss with others as well, that if we do not have one guidance and one ideology, then there are bound to be differences. And if all of these people think that they are following their own religion, then why are they divided even within that religion? They have sects because they have different belief systems. And essentially they follow their own desires. They don't have one concept of Allah which is given in the Quran, one concept of the hereafter, and they have absolutely no knowledge about the permanent values. But the problem is that none among them have that book in its original form which was given to their Nabi, that is to their messenger. Thus, this claim of theirs is batil, that the divine guidance exists with them. Rasulullah gave this reply according to Wahi to the people of the book of his time, and none among them contradicted it. They cannot contradict it because it is staring in their eyes. If we talk to sectarian Muslims, they also have no answer and they just move away because they do not wish to question their own false belief system. Next is need to prove to ourselves it is the only guidance. And this is an important aspect of today's presentation. It was stated to them that you also accept that true guidance is that which is received from the direction of Allah. You yourselves also acknowledge that this Hudallah, guidance given from the direction of Allah, is not in your possession in its original shape. So other than the Quran, nobody can claim that their guidance is in the original shape. In any case, once we go through their books, We will see contradictions virtually on every other page. Following the full use of reflection and careful deliberation on the basis of knowledge and vision, decide for yourselves whether this guidance can be divine guidance or not. Do not just go along. You decide yourselves after pondering and reasoning. You do not have the divine guidance with you. This claim of yours that your maslak, that is your views, your belief system is correct and is from Allah, is merely based on your blind reverence. And this is evident that compared to reality, hollow reverence can never be viewed as being based on truth. I am presenting al-ilm, that is the knowledge of the guidance of Allah. And you are only presenting the sentiments of smug faith. Go and inquire from the court of knowledge and intellect that out of these two masalik, which can be declared to be the maslak of haqqu sadaqat, that is truth and integrity. Moreover, if you think that I will follow your desires by abandoning this guidance of Allah, then this is your misconception. And this is very important. After understanding the Quran, accepting Iman, doing solid deeds, coming together, we should be absolutely firmly on this path. If I did this, then who will be able to save me from those destructive consequences which will ensue from treading on the wrong path? We should never try to be in two boats at the same time. We simply cannot be. It is disaster at human self's level. Next verse is 121. The Quran is not for mere reading. Tilawat means to study it and then to follow its commands. And this is another interesting verse. Allazina atainahumul kataba yatlunahu haqqa tilawatihi ulaika yu'minuna bihi wa man yakfur bihi fa ulaika humul khasirun. And I have highlighted this part, atainahumul kataba yatlunahu haqqa tilawatihi. That is, do the tilawat as it deserves to be done. The members of your Jamaat to whom we have given the code of laws, that is the Quran, obey it completely. These are the true Momin according to the criteria defined by Allah. And Quran says, Ulaika yu'minuna bihi. Because they have understood it. They have accepted this Iman. Contrary to this, the people who deny the truth, whether they are Jews, Christians, or Arab mushrikeen, such people will become destroyed. The meaning of tilawat. The root of the word tilawat is given here, which means to follow someone, to emulate or advocate for someone. Following behind someone is also done physically, as is mentioned in the Quran when the moon keeps following the sun, and also for obedience to commands. Imam Raghib has said that the purpose of tilawat is to obey the book, but for obedience it is essential that it is read, because we cannot obey something if we do not know about it, i.e. to be read by understanding it. This is why the word tilawat is also used for reading the Quran, but this word is reserved for qirat only, i.e. mere reading is called qirat, whereas tilawat comprises both qirat and obedience. So we should be very careful in using this term from here onwards. This point should be fully understood, that reading the Quran is essential in order that it can be understood. And understanding is essential in order that it can be adhered to. So merely understanding is not enough, then it has to be obeyed. If the Quran is not understood, then reading it will be of no benefit. And if it is not acted upon, then understanding it is also futile. Because then we cannot establish the system of Deen, we cannot get the power in the land. When it is stated in the verse under discussion that those who are given the book, they read and obey it the way reading and obedience should be done. And Quran has explained it from beginning to the end how to obey the book of Allah. From this is not meant mere reading, instead it means to understand it and also to act on it. Because after this it is stated that these people truly accept Iman in it. If the meaning of tilawat is taken to be mere reading, then this is not a quality of the Jamaat-e-Momineen. Non-Muslims also read the Quran, but they do not follow it. Next verse is 122. Obedience to Allah's laws will always produce eminent outcomes as noted in the Quran. And this verse is a repetition of verse 47, which we have gone through. So today we will only go through the meanings. Ya Bani Israel askuru nemat yallati an'amtu alaykum wa anni fazzaltukum alal alameen. How much of it, whatever we have stated above, is based on facts? For this, say to these Jews, that is Bani Israel, to reflect once again on your history and see that when you adopted the guidance of Allah, then due to this, how you had achieved all kinds of conveniences of life and you had become possessors of an eminent status among your compatriot nations, so much so that no other nation could compete with you. Next verse is 123. This is the hallmark of the Deen of Allah. Repeat of points covered in verse 48. وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمَ لَا تَجْزِي نَفْسٌ عَنْ نَفْسٍ شَيْئًا وَلَا يُقْبَلُ مِنْهَا عَدْلٌ وَلَا تَنْفَعُهَا شَفَاعَةٌ وَلَا هُمْ يُنْصَرُونَ. After abandoning this system, your condition had become such that respect for constitution and laws and the upholding of justice and fairness totally disappeared among you. But now this injustice and chaos cannot last long. Now, with the establishment of the Quranic system, that era is going to arrive fairly quickly when no individual will be able to share the burden of another one. Everyone will face the punishment of his own deeds. Nor will the intervention of anyone be of any use, nor will anyone be released by taking something in return that is the bribe for his crime. And nor will any person be able to access the help of some criminal. This will happen in this world when the system of justice of the Quran will be established, and also in the hereafter, when all decisions will be according to the law of requital of Allah. Thanks for your time and for sharing this today. Please feel free to share it with your contacts. You may like to subscribe for future talks related to the Quranic system of Deen.